In his grandpa's basement, he found a mysterious door that changed his life forever. The door leads to another world, to a rundown shack in the middle of the jungle, filled with strongest monster.
Nope.
So he returned back? What? Why? Then how will that change his life, you say? This not your typical isekai story, where he goes to another world, or trapped in another world. He can come and go as he likes. So stick till the end to know the sneaky way he uses it to completely change his life in Japan, using the other world only he can go to, monopolizing to himself as like a cheat to success. If it was you, what will you do? How will you use Isekai World to change your life? Stick to the end to know his actual real cheat skill. Yuya knew all too well how people saw him, a freak, an outcast, the ugly kid everyone loved to torment. His looks? Far from ideal. But despite his strange appearance and the cruel taunts, he still felt this burning need to help people, even if they didn't want him around. That day, though, everything changed. It all started when Yuya overheard a girl's desperate cries for help. 3 guys were harassing her, forcing her to drink with them. Yuya, wanting to step in, felt his heart race. But the moment the goons saw him, they couldn't resist mocking his appearance. "Look at this freak," they jeered, before beating him to a pulp. Just when things looked bleak, the police arrived, and the thugs scattered like roaches. On his way home, Yuya couldn't shake off his grandfather's words about helping those who couldn't help themselves. His grandfather had been the only person who truly cared for him, especially during the cruelest years of his life. School? A nightmare. His classmates didn't just bully him, they stripped him, mocked him, and even threw him in the trash. As if that wasn't enough, his own parents despised him for his looks. Why? Because while his siblings were blessed with beauty, Yuya got the short end of the stick. When Yuya was in middle school, the bullying reached its peak. His classmates literally dumped him in the trash and laughed at his misery. But even in those darkest moments, his grandfather had been his light. Then, one day, his grandfather passed away, leaving Yuya everything he owned. However, his parents, furious that they couldn't claim the inheritance, disowned him. Yuya had no choice but to take on part-time jobs just to survive. On the day of his graduation, while everyone else was celebrating, the bullies had one last jab. They stuffed cruel notes in his books, mocking his weight, looks, and the fact that his own parents had abandoned him. Devastated, Yuya ran. But the torment didn't stop. The bullies cornered him, beat him up again, and all Yuya could think about was how he was late for his shift. When he finally made it to work, his boss fired him on the spot for being late. Utterly defeated, Yuya returned home, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Overwhelmed by despair, he punched the glass, his fist bleeding. That's when something strange happened. A mysterious door caught his eye. With nothing left to lose, he opened it. A screen appeared before him, revealing an entirely different world, a world where he could gain unimaginable powers. It explained that since Yuya was now the owner of his grandfather's house, he had access to this place. He could learn skills, cash out rewards, and more. His level? Only 1. But it was a start. Determined to explore, Yuya tried to make sense of a strange paper lying on the table. The system allowed him to understand the language, confirming this world belonged to him now. He began to train. Among the weapons at his disposal, Yuya chose a sword, an ancient, powerful blade that could kill with a single strike. At first, he struggled. The weight of the weapon knocked him to the ground. But in this world, things came easier. With each attempt, Yuya grew stronger, mastering every weapon, even those said to be powerful enough to slay gods. Just as he felt he was getting the hang of things, he heard a noise. Turning around, he spotted something monstrous, a giant ogre, hungry for blood. Yuya froze in terror. The creature ripped a tree from the ground and swung it toward him. Yuya gripped the spear in his trembling hands, heart pounding in his chest. The ogre loomed before him, a massive beast with hunger in its eyes. But Yuya knew this was his chance. He threw the spear, pushing all his fear aside, and watched in awe as it flew through the air with deadly precision. The spear pierced through the ogre's stomach, creating a gaping hole. The monster let out a final, gut-wrenching cry before collapsing to the ground. Yuya stood there, stunned. Did he really just kill that thing? Before he could fully process it, the screen popped up again, congratulating him on reaching level 100. And as a reward, the ogre's weapons and a shower of gold. Yes, actual gold coins spilled out in front of him, transforming his life in the blink of an eye. No more struggling to eat. This world made everything easier for Yuya, almost overnight. That night, as he drifted into sleep, Yuya dreamed of his body changing. His muscles grew, and pain rippled through him. When he woke up the next morning, he couldn't believe what he saw. His clothes were practically hanging off his body, and when he looked down, six-pack abs. His round, pudgy face had sharpened into a jawline that could cut glass. The system, ever so generous, provided him with royal silk clothes that fit perfectly, no matter how much his body changed. Curious, Yuya headed out to explore the strange new world. In the backyard, he found a garden full of magical plants, ones that could heal wounds and boost his energy. While watering them, he heard a terrifying sound, the growl of a hell slime, a monster with a level of 200. With his spear in hand, Yuya acted quickly, throwing it at the beast. Just like that, the hell slime was no more, and Yuya's level jumped to 150. Amidst the chaos, one thing caught his eye, a black moon necklace. It was said to increase his mana, so naturally, he put it on. Instantly, he felt stronger, more powerful, and, well, hotter. The system rewarded him again, this time with cash for the valuable items he'd acquired. Feeling confident, Yuya treated himself to some new clothes for his upcoming classes and spent the rest of the day exploring, soaking in the joy of this new life. But reality still loomed in the back of his mind. What about the real world? What about the bullies who had tormented him? As strong as he was here, could he face them back at school? The next morning, Yuya returned to school, and to his surprise, people couldn't stop staring at him. He walked into the classroom, and the bullies were waiting, as usual. But they didn't recognize him. "You're Yuya?" They scoffed, unable to believe this tall, handsome guy was the same person they used to bully. Confused, Yuya rushed to the bathroom, staring at his reflection. He barely recognized himself either and let out a scream. How was this possible? Overwhelmed, Yuya decided to leave school for the day. As he wandered aimlessly, he passed a familiar girl. She stopped him, her eyes widening in recognition. "Yuya?" she asked, her voice full of surprise. It was Kaori, the girl he had saved from a group of thugs not long ago. She recognized him by his eyes and thanked him again for his help. Kaori then invited him to join her at Usai Academy, a prestigious school with a stellar reputation. Turns out, Kaori had told her father, the chairman of the academy, about Yuya's bravery, and now he wanted to meet him. But Yuya, still scarred by the years of bullying and his past insecurities, hesitated. He wasn't sure he belonged there. He doubted himself, feeling like there were others more deserving, smarter, and better suited for that kind of place. As Kaori and Yuya talked, their conversation caught the attention of his classmates, who watched with growing jealousy. Little did they know, Yuya's world was about to change, for better or worse. Yuya's classmates were eager to join Usai Academy too, but when Kaori returned to the school, fresh from her research, she turned them down. Her reason? Their poor moral standards. With a confident smile, she took Yuya's hand and led him straight to her massive mansion-like academy. Upon their arrival, the chairman of Usai Academy welcomed Yuya warmly, thanking him for protecting his daughter from those criminals. The chairman even offered to help Yuya with his schooling. But Yuya felt a wave of discomfort. Why was someone like him, a so-called half-wit, being accepted into a school full of geniuses? The chairman, sensing his unease, explained that brilliance isn't just about smarts, it's about having unique abilities. Comparing Yuya to others wasn't fair. Yuya overheard the chairman mentioning to his grandfather how he should take things slow and that he would soon catch on. Just then, a woman entered the office, Sawada, a scientist and teacher at Usai Academy. She smiled at the chairman's kind words, but Yuya hesitated at the door to his classroom. Could he really start fresh here? He remembered the chairman's advice, take it slow. Mustering up his courage, Yuya stepped inside. Sawada quickly called out for him to introduce himself. He nervously stood in front of the class and did so, catching the attention of all the girls, who were surprised by how gorgeous he looked. Sawada pointed him to a seat near the window, where he sat next to a classmate named Hayato. Hayato, noticing that Yuya didn't have the right book, kindly handed over his own. Meanwhile, Kaori kept glancing his way, worried about how he was adjusting. Yuya soon realized the coursework was on par with what he had studied in high school, which eased his nerves. What stood out to him, though, was how friendly and relaxed the teachers were with the students. After class, a group of girls flocked to him, bombarding him with questions. He wasn't sure how to handle all the attention. Luckily, a boy named Rio stepped in, handsome and laid back. Rio introduced himself and invited Yuya to grab lunch at the cafeteria. The school's canteen was unlike any other, top-quality food at a discounted price. While they ate, Yuya noticed people staring at him. He wondered if it was because of his unique clothes, but Rio and the others dismissed that idea, saying it was probably his charm and looks that were drawing attention. After lunch, Yuya noticed some of the students playing games on their devices. It surprised him that Usai Academy allowed students to bring gadgets, as long as they didn't use them in class. Later that day, the chairman called Yuya back to his office. Yuya still didn't feel deserving of being at such a prestigious school, but once again, the chairman encouraged him, lifting his spirits. Yuya felt more confident about staying at Usai Academy after the conversation. As he walked down the hallway, Kaori caught up to him, curious about whether he'd decided to stay or leave. Yuya admitted he'd made up his mind to enroll. Overjoyed, Kaori took him out for street food, and they shared a delightful meal. Despite everything, Yuya still felt confused about Hojo, another classmate who seemed keen to be around him. Hojo, who had a gift for reading minds, told Yuya that other classmates avoided her because of her family's strange history. Yuya, still struggling with his own insecurities, tried not to overeat, worried he might slip back into his old self. When he asked how she had recognized him despite his transformation, she simply replied, "Your eyes. They're still as innocent as ever." As they shared food and laughed together, Yuya realized just how much had changed. To an outsider, they might have even looked like the perfect couple. Yuya, now familiar with the other world, prepares himself for yet another adventure. At night, he dons his armor, his heart racing as he steps through the portal. There's a thrill in battling the creatures that roam these lands, and tonight is no different. He fights fiercely, taking down a massive beast, its rare treasures spilling out as he packs them into his magical box. He checks his level on the screen, He's reached level 235, but he knows the real challenge lies ahead, beyond the fence, where even more dangerous demons lurk. Climbing over the fence, Yuya freezes. The sight is gruesome, beasts tearing through men, their bodies left mangled. Then, out of nowhere, a level 200 goblin appears, and next to it sits a girl. Yuya is stunned. People? Here in this world? But there's no time to think. He leaps into action, striking the goblin with precision. Just when he thinks the battle is won, a huge blow lands from behind. Another goblin. Yuya winces, but he quickly grabs his bow and arrow from his magical square. With a swift movement, he retrieves a magic sword and finishes off the second goblin. The girl, however, is in bad shape. As Yuya approaches her, she faints. The scene fades, and Yuya finds himself back home, pondering the girl's fate. She was stunning, sure, but he's certain her soldiers will take care of her. Shrugging it off, he decides he needs new clothes and heads to the mall. At the mall, people can't stop staring at him. His new look has them whispering in awe, and Yuya feels the heat of their gazes. He just wants to finish his shopping and leave. Little does he know, a famous director is there, waiting impatiently for his perpetually late model. Hikaru, the director, is fed up. His model, Mew, is gorgeous but unreliable, and now Hikaru's ready to hire anyone who can step in. As Yuya tries to ignore the attention from some girls who approach him, the director's eyes land on him. Hikaru is immediately captivated by Yuya's striking appearance and rushes over. He asks Yuya to do a quick photo shoot, playing the role of a boyfriend on a shopping spree with his girlfriend. Reluctantly, Yuya agrees, and before he knows it, he's posing alongside Mew. The director is thrilled with the shots and encourages them to get closer. Yuya, however, is clearly uncomfortable, beads of sweat forming on his forehead as Mew inches nearer. He tries to maintain some distance, but the director pushes for more intimate poses. Despite his unease, Yuya pushes through until the shoot is finally over and they take a break. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the princess. She wakes up in a terrible state, desperate to return to the forest and find the mysterious hero who saved her. The princess, against the advice of her soldiers, heads straight into the dangerous demonic forest. She's tough, fearless, and has no intention of letting anyone stop her, not even her own guards. As they march deeper into the forest, she can't help but think about the mysterious person who saved her. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Yuya is still feeling awkward after his unexpected modeling gig. Sitting alone, he confesses to Mew that this was his first time doing anything like this, and that modeling is a far cry from what he's used to. She smiles and opens up, explaining that she got into this line of work because her father is always too busy for her. Modeling, for her, was a way to get attention and connect with people. She loves the fan letters and admiration from her followers. While Yuya and Mew are chatting, the director sneaks in some candid shots of them laughing together, making the most of the situation. Just as they're getting comfortable, the original model finally arrives, and the atmosphere shifts. The model expects Mew to greet him warmly, but when she doesn't, his temper flares. He corners her, pressing her against the wall, demanding to know why she's ignoring him. Yuya, seeing what's happening, steps in to stop him. The model, thinking Yuya is just another pretty face, tries to take a swing at him. Big mistake. Yuya quickly grabs his arm, flips him to the ground, and dodges every attack with ease. It's almost comical how outclassed the model is. Everyone watching is stunned. Yuya, the newcomer, just took down their star. But instead of turning on Yuya, the crowd shifts its allegiance, cheering for their new hero. The director captures the whole scene on camera, and Mew, relieved, thanks Yuya for standing up for her. She confesses that the model has been tormenting her for ages, and she's grateful for Yuya's help. The disgraced model flees, and the director quickly apologizes to Mew for not protecting her sooner. He then offers Yuya a permanent job in the industry, but Yuya politely declines. Modeling isn't for him. It's too far outside his comfort zone. As a token of appreciation, the director buys Yuya some fancy clothes, and Mew hints that she'd love to work with him again in the future. Later, Yuya returns home, only to step back into the demonic forest for another round of monster hunting. He arrives just in time to see soldiers being overwhelmed by goblins. With a heroic entrance, Yuya takes them all down with his sword in one swift move, leaving everyone in awe. The princess, especially impressed, gets close to him and, much to Yuya's shock, proposes on the spot. Meanwhile, back in the real world, a different director gets wind of Yuya's impromptu modeling session. Intrigued by his natural charisma and skill, she orders her team to find him. She's determined to make him the next big thing in the modeling world. And that's it for episodes 1, 2, and 3. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.